Hey there, I'm Steve, and welcome to Jamson Entertainment. And welcome to the conversation. Just before we get started, there are many ways you can help. You can like and subscribe so you never miss a conversation. But most importantly, please share this video. Get to where there's a community we can talk about all the things that we love. Today on Throwback Thursday, and for the next few weeks, we're going to be looking at historical fiction, or in some cases, like this movie, Troy, myth. And I say historical fiction because I know there is snippets of history in these movies. I'm just not a history buff, so I don't know for sure what is factual and what's not, other than these civilizations, places, for the most part, I think, existed, and some of the people have actually existed. That's all I really know. I'm only going to be looking at these movies as movies, because I don't know the history. This movie came out 2002, 3, something like that. I only remember that because that's when I started working at a movie theater. It was my first job, and I remember watching the bejesus out of this movie because this movie is awesome. But I learned this is more or less based on the ancient Greek Homer, no, not that Homer, and his story, the Iliad, which to my understanding is the story of Helen of Troy, which for the most part this movie is, but that's only for, I'd say, the first third of the movie. I mean, they bring it back towards the end, but it's kind of like an afterthought. It's really about Troy, hence the name, and one of the main characters is Achilles, which we now get to the cast, starring Brad Pitt, Eric Bana, Orlando Bloom, Brian Cox, and he'll show up in another movie that we're going to be looking at, Brendan Gleeson, Diane Kruger, Siri Zvelger, sorry if I mispronounced your name, Garrett Hedlund, Sean Bean, a movie he doesn't die in, sorry for that spoiler, but there's so few out there, I have to point it out. Peter O'Toole, James Cosmo, Rose Byrne, Tyler Main, Nathan Jones, and Julie Christie. Not being familiar with the history, I'm also not familiar with the stories by Homer, but I am interested to read the Iliad and other stories by Homer. So I don't know if Achilles is in the story of Helen of Troy, or the Iliad more specifically. I just know he is a Greek myth. Kind of like the first myth of Superman, to put it in modern terms, we get the term Achilles heel because of this myth. I'll look it up and put it in post, but as a kid or something, or baby, he was dipped in a pool and he became invulnerable except for his one heel because that's where he was being held by. The plot is pretty straightforward. You have King Agamemnon, who is conquering the various different factions in Greece. He has a brother named Menelaus who has been fighting Troy, that is across the Aegean Sea, but they finally have come to peace. Menelaus is celebrating this peace with Hector and Paris, the sons of King Priam. Behind everyone's back, Paris is having an affair with Menelaus' wife Helen, and she sails away with Hector and Paris. Menelaus finds out and goes to his brother Agamemnon, and they set sail for Troy to get Helen back, but really it's to regain Menelaus' honor, and Agamemnon has had his eye set on Troy forever, and this is the excuse he uses to go to war with Troy. Achilles is the best part of this movie. I love this character. He is an absolute rebel. He doesn't care about anyone but him and his kin, and yet he fights kinda for Agamemnon. He only fights like under his banner, not for him. Achilles fights for his own honor and is to preserve his name in history. On the surface, Achilles is not a very complex character. All he wants to do is fight and make a name for himself. But the movie, over time, shows you the depth of Achilles. That there's actually more there than just someone who's been trained to fight. Many different ways that they show this. His friendship with King Odysseus, his relationship with his cousin Patroclus. There's a love interest for him, and you see him kind of soften around her, but him and his back and forth with Agamemnon are pretty awesome. He just does not care about this king. And Agamemnon knows it. He can't stand the fact that Achilles is the way he is, and furthermore, he can't stand that he can't do anything about it. Now, on the Trojan side, you have Hector, Paris, Priam, and actually in both sides, specifically between Achilles and Hector, they kind of have an agnostic view. You could even say that Achilles has disdain for the gods, but mostly they are practical. When it comes to Priam, he is devout. He follows his priest no matter what. His son is giving him all the correct advice. The priest is just saying, oh, this sign came and it says this, we will be victorious. And that works for Priam a few times, but then it just backfires completely. And it's interesting seeing that dynamic of the old and the young. Well, okay, I was thinking this while I was watching this movie because I'm reading Dr. Jordan Peterson's Maps of Meaning, and the subtitle of that, Architecture of Belief. And the book is basically about how humanity has formed beliefs and also formed cultures and religions. And part of that is when cultures can go awry. And this isn't that per se, but Priam, as described in the book I'm reading, is old devouring father, that he is so stout in his ways. He doesn't listen to the youth that sees things from a different point of view. And that doesn't work out for Priam. Let's just put it that way. So it's interesting seeing that dynamic in a story other than just reading about it. This movie also is about ancient war, and especially the last 20 minutes of the movie does not shy away from anything. I'm just going to put it that way. I've seen this movie probably half a dozen times. There are things I don't know. Maybe I just missed them watching them. Maybe it's because it's the extended edition, I'm relatively certain, or director's cut. I don't what's the real difference there. And with this being the extended edition, I don't know, probably because again, I'm watching this to review it, my memory clicks in and I'm like, I don't remember that part. Even though I've watched this particular version, this is probably at least the third time I've seen this version. The extended edition is nice so far as you get to see more of the Trojan culture, you get more battle prepping, and I think that's really about it. There's some scenes I think they extend just a little longer, so now they're not necessarily deleted scenes, they're just extended scenes, and those are pretty cool. The grand epic scale of this is pretty cool. Grant you the large armies, when the camera is fully pulled back, they're CGI, and it's early 2000 CGI, so it's at least they're far away. It doesn't look that terrible. But when it's close-up shots, it's clearly a whole bunch of extras behind the main actors, and it's really cool. They do a great job at large-scale ancient war. This movie is very enjoyable. There's a lot of great scenes, a lot of great dialogue, and it's a great story, and I highly recommend that you get it on Blu-ray. Those are my thoughts on Troy. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and live your imagination.